1 million.
1 million.
1 million pound.
Alright guys, the topic of today on our podcast for MoneySet.co.uk is to talk about pension, a favorite topic of ours, and in particular, this figure of 1 million pound. How do you get there? Sounds like an astronomical number.
It does.
But in reality, it's not so hard to get there. There has been an interesting guide released by the pension industry. So we've been looking at the number for you, and they give you some idea of what needs to be saved over your working life in order to achieve this magical number. And depending on the amount you are able to save, you will have 3 types of living standards in your retirement. So let's start with the basic one called the minimum standard, which is only £10,200 a year for one person. With that, you are not even able to buy yourself a car. And when it comes to holidays, you are only having a coach trip, so not very exciting at all. The second one, called moderate retirement, is a bit more exciting. It's £20,200. With that, you can afford an impressive second-hand Ford Focus.
Wow.
And 10-night holidays in Europe. Good, but not good enough, I would argue. And the third level, called comfortable, will give you £33,000. Okay. For that, you have £300 a month of spending money to go out, takeaways, restaurants. 3 weeks in Europe, not bad, and a 2-year-old Nissan Qashqai. So I think what the pension industry has done is really good because it helps people planning for the long term and see what kind of money you need and to have the kind of lifestyle you want. You know, maybe you are happy with the minimum standard. I'm not, and I think Leo, you are not either.
I'm not. I think if we're gonna put the hard work over so many years, then we are gonna expect something else. So I was just actually looking at some numbers that from another research. In this case, is the Which Money magazine.
Yep.
And they are going even the one extra mile. So we are talking about luxury, right? So comfortable, luxurious. I think we should aim higher, right? We are gonna put our efforts. I guess Mark can help me here later on talking about that. But just to share with you some numbers. So the basic fact that I want to share with you guys is very simple. Is the earlier you start, the better, the easier. And the probabilities to get there and to get to this luxurious outcome is definitely higher, right? So just to share some shocking numbers with you. So let's say that you start at the age of 20, right? So we are talking about that to get this luxurious type of retirement, you need about 500, 600 pounds that you have to put aside each month. For some people, that might be or might sound a lot, but we are gonna go and explain that, right? Now, and that is considering that there's no money in your pot today, right? Now, let's look at if you are in your 40s, or if you are in your, let's say if you are in your 40s, and you haven't got any money in your pot, you have to put over £1,000 a month in your pot.
Big increase every month.
Every month. So that's a lot.
Okay.
Now, Shay, you talked about why do we need to get to this 1 million pot. You talked about we need that amount of money. So there's also research that shows what are the 10 categories of spending patterns among retirees in their retirement. So it is right. People tend to go for extended long-haul holidays. They want to go to European travel. They want to spend money on a new car. They want to spend money on groceries, house payments, things like insurance and transport utilities and things like that. So definitely the research shows that you need that money to get to that style of living at retirement. So this is how it works. Just as a rule of thumb, I would say, the rule of thumb is basically how much do you have to put in your pension on a percentage basis?
Yes.
Is half your age and put that as a percentage in your pot. So let's say if you are in your 20s, put 10% in your pension point. If you are in your 30s, put 15%. Overall, we are going to discuss the details on how can you achieve that. So that's more or less the rule of thumb. But I'll leave it to you, Mark.
Right. As mentioned by Jay and Leo, I think it's good that we have these articles around so that we can read and people can get a grasp on the numbers, okay? But we need to transfer from reading an article and getting the numbers and applying in your day-to-day. And the numbers in general, in terms of expenditure, are reasonable, okay. If you take the article, if you take the other magazine, numbers are reasonable good, based on my experience. But why you have to wait until you are 65, 67, 70 years old? We don't know what will happen in 20, 30 years. Robots coming, artificial intelligence, job market will change. So no, let's accelerate it. There is a beautiful saying from a guy which is reasonably clever, or was, called Albert Einstein, which says the compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, which means, if we translate this to financial independence, means the earlier you invest, the money will work harder for you. The compound interest, the money that you get in terms of yield or return of your investments on a yearly basis will accumulate. You make a little bit more, this little bit more, will make a little bit more. So the compound interest will accelerate your gain on the years to come. And of course, if you accelerate or if you increase your percentage of savings, let's not talk about 10%, 15 or 20. How about doing 30% of your income in terms of savings? What about 40, 50%? So if you increase your savings, you get the compound interest, magic, I would say, which will accelerate your return on the investments you do. And of course, and then you get the financial independence much earlier than your 60s or 70s. So you should think about being a super saver. Let's accelerate it. This is the concept of FIRE, of financial independence, retire earlier. The earlier you start and more you put in your investment retirement pot, the faster you get your potentially £1 million, as we mentioned before. So
yeah, and it doesn't have to be hard. Just to explain a bit more on these pension schemes that exist. In the past, just a bit of recap here, there was something called defined benefit. That was very generous pension scheme where all the risk was with your employer. Unfortunately, most of these have been closed, so you cannot enroll onto these pension schemes anymore. And they have been replaced over the years by something called defined contribution. So the idea is that you put your own money, okay, that you get from your salary, but your employer most likely will match it. And on top of that, the government is helping with tax relief. So I want to insist on this point because if we follow your advice, Mark, and go becoming an extra or super saver, as you call it, which we think is really important here at MoneySet.co.uk in order to achieve your financial freedom as early as possible. The effort doesn't have to be as bad or as big as it sounds.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you some numbers just so you can understand what it means.
Yeah.
Assuming you were to save £500,
yeah.
So let's take this figure, and you do it for 45 years. So let's say you are 20-year-old and you need to save for 45 years until 65 at 5%. Okay, on your return on your money. Okay, you will reach in 45 years £1 million. So you say, I can find £500 of spare money at 20.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you start. Obviously, your salary is quite low. But the reality is, most likely, as I said before, your employer will help. So the actual money in your pocket that you need to get this £500 a month is only £222.
Right.
So the effort is much less. And just to resonate with what you said, 45 years, of course, you don't want to wait 45 years for your reward, for your pension pot to go to 1 million. You want it to be much earlier. so that you can retire maybe in your late 30s if you are very ambitious and aggressive, but most likely in your 40s. And for that, even if you double to £1,000 a month when you are 20, you will only be saving, only the double, so £444, which doesn't sound out, impossible. I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is also coming from my personal experience. I mean, sometimes you don't think long term, right? When you are young, especially, you probably are thinking short term. So this is something that at MoneySet we want to share also with you, that the sooner you start thinking long term planning for the future, obviously you are going to achieve these long term objectives that we are talking about. But the objective at the end of the day is to achieve this as early as possible. We don't want to wait until we are 65, 70. So we want to achieve that much earlier. So all in all, when we say that rule of thumb, for example, half your age of your for the contributions you will do on an annual basis, I think we need to aim much higher than that, right?
Yeah, I just want to add some numbers here. We hear a lot of numbers, but it's important to make some calculations so that you can see what you can achieve in the future. So I've checked on the internet, and today the average UK salary is around £35,000 a year. So taking this as an assumption, let's say that you start saving when you are 22 years old. And instead of saving 10% or 15 or 20, you go to 40%, okay, average. I know to have 35k salary at 20s is not that easy, but just as assumption. So if you save 40% of this average of 35k salary a year, and after 30 years, you get close to your 1 million, which means that you'll be in your early 50s. So this is the result that you have when you become a super saver, when you carefully look at your expenses and you cut as much as you can your expenditure. You don't need a nice BMW or a nice Mercedes when you are 20s. Save this money, put in your retirement pot, and you will accelerate your financial independence retirement early.
So that was a great conversation, guys. So this 1 million figure doesn't sound far-fetched after all. And I think if we combine this good advice of starting early and accelerate and increase the level of investment, maximize the use of the tax relief,
take advantage of that.
And the pension contribution from your employer, the effort is not as hard as it is, and the reward is big. And you don't have to wait until you are in your late 60s to get your, the payment back on this efforts you're making as early as 40. So, especially so that maybe as lifespan is expanding, if you can retire in 40s, you still have a lot of time left.
Time is something you cannot buy.
Exactly,
right? So,
time you can't get back. So the earlier you can achieve this goal of retiring early, as we said before, and the better you will have to enjoy your life. So I hope you found this podcast interesting. We really enjoyed talking about these topics, and we see you next time, guys.
Thank you. Ciao.
See you next time.
Ciao. Au revoir.